Reacting to Week 1 of the National Football League season, Gary Gramling from Sports Illustrated and Monday Morning Quarterback helps us out. We had a Week 1 in the books, although there are 2 games tonight. But the Giants, the team of regionally, the team with the most interest in the Capital Region, a lot of Giant fans were looking forward to sitting down last night and watching a great matchup with the Dallas Cowboys, and we didn't get that. It was ugly, and it was an awful performance on the offensive side of the ball. Can't really blame the defense. They're out in the field a heck of a lot. Gary Gramling joins us here on Big Board Sports. Roger Weiland, Chris Honorado. Gary, good morning. Welcome to Big Board Sports on ESPN Radio in Albany.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Appreciate it. Let's get to that Giants game last night. No Odell Beckham Jr., and I really thought last week, even if they didn't have Odell, they could still, with enough playmakers out on the field, and they got Ingram in the offseason, who looked really good in the preseason, that they could still hold their own and win the game because their defense would be that good. But that offensive line was just horrible last night.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a huge surprise. The one sense you got, and really you got this from listening to Collinsworth a little bit, they get those pregame notes. It sounded like they had really big plans for Evan Ingram last night, and it just didn't really play out that way. And look, when you don't have Odell Beckham Jr., you don't have much of a margin for error there. So I don't want to say it's not a disappointment. It's a huge disappointment. You go out and score 3 points in an NFL game against a defense that's, pretty good. Certainly not great though. That's not good, but I think you can kind of look at this and say, hey, once Odell's back, tips the defense a little bit towards him, makes everything easier for Evan Ingram, for Brandon Marshall, for Sterling Shepard, and I think they'll be. They're not going to be great offensively, but I think they'll be all right offensively.
What were you surprised that they didn't target Brandon Marshall more last night? I mean, obviously a veteran receiver they got in the offseason from the Jets, and high hopes for him this season, but they barely even looked his way. And the one time that he did, Eli threw behind him, but it was not. I mean, he only caught one pass with 10 seconds to go in that game last night.
Yes, yeah, kept that consecutive game streak with a catch going. Surprised, yeah, shocked, not quite. I mean, there's always going to be chemistry issues a lot of times, even with 2 veterans. I don't want to dismiss the whole game. You wish they looked better, but once Odell is back, if they're still having issues, then you can sort of hit the panic button a little bit. But I think they'll be all right. And look, Marshall's going to see a ton of one-on-one coverage all year, and I think that's when that's when you kind of say you got to go towards him.
Gary Gramling of Monday Morning Quarterback with us here on 104.5 The Team. You can find Gary on Twitter at @GGramling_SI. Gary, on Thursday's show, Roger and I made our Super Bowl predictions, and I'm not sure here on Monday morning which one of us would like to change it more, because Raj went with the Giants and I went with, I picked the Seahawks, but to beat the Texans. And after Houston looked the way they looked yesterday, boy, I'd like to pick almost anybody else in the AFC. That one surprised me over the landscape of yesterday's games. Which were the ones that really stood out to you as surprises?
Texans were by far the most disappointing team. And, I was on that bandwagon, too. I thought the Texans were in that sort of class of, not Patriots, but, put them in with the Steelers, with the Chiefs, with the Raiders out in the AFC. I knew they weren't going to be good offensively, but they are a disaster. And we talk about the Giants and say, hey, once Beckham is back, things will get better. I don't think there's a solution there for the Texans. I think they are going to be atrocious offensively all season. I think it's almost going to be an extreme version of what the Broncos were last year, where you have this great defense. The Broncos offense was bad last year. It wasn't this bad though. I mean, I guess you get a little boost. AFC South not great. Maybe they squeak out a couple wins though. Home at Jacksonville figures he won that they probably should have won. Boy, the Texans! Oh my goodness, yeah, that might be a 5 or 6 win team. I don't think Deshaun Watson is the answer. I think maybe long term he is. Short term, he's not ready though. And that offensive line, I'm not sure any quarterback can play behind it.
A couple other shockers to me, because I think the Bengals at home would be able to either hang in and or beat the Ravens yesterday. And boy, that was ugly as Dalton throws 3 picks in the first half, and the Ravens win 20-0 in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I'm a charter member of the Ravens bandwagon this year, so I was not too surprised by that one. You wish the Bengals would look better. They have all those weapons. The problem is that offensive line is bad. Andy Dalton is a guy who needs protection, needs a good offensive line behind him. He's the kind of guy where once he has to move around a little bit in the pocket, he's not a big arm strength guy, and he just, it takes away from so much of what he does when he doesn't have a 100% clean pocket. So when they can't block for him, they can't move the ball on offense, and that's going to be a problem all year for them.
We probably buried the lead here on some level because the Buffalo Bills are all alone in first place in the AFC East. It'll be the last time we say that this year, Gary, but honestly, even though they are two teams of regional interest here to Albany, I will fully admit I did not watch much of that game because I knew it would be difficult on the eyes. Do you see either of those teams winning more than, I'll say, 4 games?
Oh, probably not. I'd probably rank them in the bottom 2 or 3 of the league. Jets are certainly 32. I think Bills, I wouldn't feel too comfortable putting them above 30 or so. But hey, nice win. The Jets are not terrible defensively, and the Bills are running the ball. LaShawn McCoy is still just an otherworldly talent. So there are some good things, but obviously it's a full rebuild year. And hey, a win is a win. When you beat an NFL team, that's an accomplishment. So good for them, and I guess I wouldn't be shocked if they squeaked out 5 or 6 wins. I think this is more of a 3 or 4 win team, though.
We're talking with Gary Gramling, Sports Illustrated Monday Morning quarterback. Gary, I'm a Steeler fan and was watching games, everything going on at the same time, and I figured a Steeler blowout in Cleveland. Somewhat impressed by the Browns yesterday. I know Antonio Brown had to have a leap and grab late in the fourth quarter that sealed the win for Pittsburgh, but with what you saw out of Cleveland yesterday, might they be a better team than what we thought going in? That Kaiser looked pretty good and maybe not awful in Cleveland this year.
Yeah, I think they're going to have some growing pains on offense. I don't know if Kaiser is the long-term answer or even the short-term answer, but he was sort of good enough yesterday and certainly good enough to keep seeing what they got there. I think they're going to be all right defensively. They're a very fast defense. Not as no Myles Garrett yesterday, so they're a little bit hamstrung by that. The thing that baffles me about the Steelers, and I don't know if you noticed this, Ben Roethlisberger, he is a different quarterback on the road, and there's no really concrete explanation for it. He's just not good when they go on the road, and he's very good at home, and that that's sort of if Antonio Brown didn't bail him out with a couple of huge plays, they were going home with a loss.
And then the other game that I find interesting yesterday was the Philadelphia Eagles going into Washington and beating the Redskins 30-17, and Carson Wentz looked pretty good. They came up with some big plays on defense, and I don't know what the expectations are for Philadelphia this season. Maybe not great, but they looked pretty good yesterday in a road win at Washington. Yeah,
I think they're really good, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they won the NFC East. That pass rush, that front four is just unbelievable. That's a great unit up there. They're a little thin on the secondary. Obviously, they lost Ronald Darby yesterday. It's going to come down to Wentz. I think Wentz in the long run is a superstar type of talent, type of quarterback. He leaves some throws out there. He had 2 throws yesterday that should have been walk-in touchdowns that he left way short and almost turned into interceptions. Luckily for him, they turned into incompletions, but he's got to sort of calibrate a little bit better on those deep throws, or he's going to get burned.
Gary, last thing from me, and I was tweeting about this yesterday, probably more than I really should have, but I'd like to get your thoughts on it, because I thought Tony Romo was really good in his debut, and I don't know how much of that Raiders-Titans game you got to see or you got to hear of Romo, but I felt like he's a relevant guy. He's not far removed from actually playing, so he has a lot to offer, I think, from the analyst chair. I mean, he was like predicting plays live on the air based on formations, and he was right 98% of the time. He just loosened up that broadcast so much more than it's been in the past. I thought he was really good. And if you got to see any of it, what were your thoughts on Romo?
I didn't hear it tonight. I had that game on. I didn't have the sound on all the time. I heard he was very good. He was really good with the quarterback play, which I guess is not surprising. And going through some of the progression type stuff, and really that's what you want from an announcer. I like Phil Simms. Phil Simms speaks in cliches a little too much in that broadcast when he was doing the top analyst team with CBS. I really want to hear things that I can't see for myself from an announcer, and if Romo's doing that, I mean that's exactly what you want.
Gary, appreciate a few minutes. We're through. Well, we're not quite through. We got Saints and Vikings and Chargers and Broncos. Who wins the 2 Monday night games tonight?
I think the Vikings are really, really good. Vikings are actually my Super Bowl pick. I did pick the Seahawks in a couple spots. I'm gonna say Vikings / Seahawks out of the NFC. I think that's a great team. I think they fixed what ails them offensively. Late game, I don't know about either of those. I kind of like either of those teams. I think they're both B+ teams. I'll pick Denver since they're at home. And let's split the baby here and say they won't cover the 3.5-point spread.
Vikings would be the first team ever to play a Super Bowl in their home stadium, right?
They would.
Wow.
Well, I'm gonna circle your name and put that pick right next to it, but I never hold anybody to it because I never hold myself to it. So
there you go.
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Gary.
it, man. Gary
Thanks for having me,
Gramling.
guys.